Good morning. Welcome to the September meeting of the Archive Group Committee. Everyone is here except Richard right now. So first thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from 9:25. I'm sorry, 8:25.
8:28.
20.
So 25.
Yeah,
On the
8:25.
agenda.
Any comments on it?
Nope, they look good.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The lawyers have submitted to the state the application for a corporation. The state has received it and I'm online with it now. All they have now is the business name is protected. So what that means is they've got it. They haven't made any rulings on it yet. But I see no reason why they would not. So I assume that we're good to go with that. That being said, one of the things that the city manager suggested I do at the council meeting on Wednesday, we have Wednesday because of Rosh Hashanah, is that I give an update, or we give an update. And I would love anyone who can be there to be there. So it's at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. And I think it's not, you know, it's not a formal presentation, but I'm just gonna introduce it. And I talked to Emma earlier and she said she could say a few words. Anyone who has something happy to talk about it, then that would be great.
I can attend. I can't speak as eloquently as Emma, but needed, I can be there.
I doubt that.
Well, and Vince, when you and I spoke, it sounded like having the partner organizations in attendance, at least a
Yeah.
representative from each would be beneficial to show a united front in that regard.
We have a
Do you know
board meeting.
when on the agenda it would be?
We'll be out by 7 though.
Yeah, do you know when on the agenda, Vince?
It's late, but I'm going to, there's I forget I think it's before public comment. No, I mean, it's late in the agenda, but I'm gonna ask for it to come forward. So I can, request that at the beginning of the meeting and do it first. Usually presentations, I believe, come before public comment. I can actually look at that, but I'll double check that. So that would be great to have people there.
And you'd like us just to say a few words about kind of reaffirming our commitment to the project and progress. I'm assuming you're gonna say a few words.
Yeah. I'm gonna review a little bit of, why we started, which was mostly financial, I think, to begin with.
Yeah, sure.
And
We all get along too. We're all friends. We.
which is unusual because every other time.
Doing a dry run of this, but yeah.
Every other time,
Right.
this has failed because they weren't friends, so.
That is the same day, although not the same time as the SAC. What are we gonna do with ourselves meet
Yes.
conversation?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I think on Wednesday it's 5 to 6:30 in
Yeah.
person. So, technically if someone wants to just keep going, next meeting.
I think that's what I'm gonna do. Are they
Sorry.
hosting it at their space or where are
I
they hosting?
think it said the Players Right.
Right.
There's like a
Right.
Zoom one on Tuesday and then an in-person
Right.
Players Right.
What is that, SAC? What is it?
SAC is just looking, I don't think they're financially healthy and they're looking to have a discussion with their community about what their future can be
I see.
succinctly.
Yes.
And now, of course, it's even more important to preserve the documents and artifacts of history because it's all under attack, so I won't say it quite that way, but
While we're on the subject, can I just bring up something that I saw this morning in the Boston Globe? I don't know if anyone gets the Boston Globe. There's a short video about Boston Public Library. They were showing the different rooms that had been closed to the public for over 30 years because they were unsafe and falling apart. Some of it was the archive room. There was also a room for doing conservation. And then at the end, kind of as a surprise, they showed that some of the rooms have already been restored and they showed people working in them. They're beautiful. And they showed some of the rooms with the different inventory and they look really nice. It's worth it to watch it if you have a subscription. But the president of the library said something at the very, very end. These were the last words spoken. And I thought this would be good for our marketing when we're reaching out to people. He said, "This will be a journey and we want you to come with us on this journey."
it's
I
good.
thought it was powerful.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. I love the Boston Library. I used to live
2 blocks away, right?
2 blocks away. Used to hang out there. I always imagined myself as being one of the angry old men sitting on the steps growling at people, you know?
It's not too late, Vince.
That's going out to the world, isn't it? Okay, good. Can you bring us up to date on where finances are and stuff? And did you see if that check ever cleared?
I did not. All I could confirm was that it was sent out on September 3rd.
Okay. All right,
I can double check that today.
yeah. I would, I don't know, we got a past due bill from the lawyers, so. It wasn't past due, it was just a balance forward.
Mhm.
And not yelling at us yet.
And it's not the amount over the reserve. It's
No, it's not over the reserve. It's just that apparently a check was sent and it didn't get cashed. So
So who does that come to?
it
The
comes,
bills to the city or?
yeah, it comes to Trevor and me, basically.
Then they forward it to me and I have Stephanie write out the check.
So,
But it hasn't come back to the Athenaeum either,
Nope.
so it was not undelivered. It's
well, undelivered mail takes probably 2 months to come back, so.
I will confirm later.
And
morning.
I'll call the law office today and just ask them if they've received anything. It was sent.
So one check went out, then they sent up a follow-up bill and the second check went out?
Correct.
Same amount?
Yeah, good. So. Don't wanna. Lose our lawyers.
No, not
Yeah.
at this point.
Okay, I have conservation assessments. Any updates? Anything new?
We are meeting with Barbara later this week.
And she's doing okay now? She was sick or had
No,
surgery?
she's going in for surgery.
Oh,
But she's fine at the moment, but we're meeting this week to ask some questions. Abby has some questions. What can we prep? Maybe you have insights. What can we prep in before she comes in that will help her do it effectively? So that Abby and I can go downstairs and kind of organize things by however it is that Barbara looks at them.
Mhm.
So does she want all the photographs together, or does she want certain departments together, or how does she want it sorted? So we're gonna be meeting this week about
Yeah,
that.
she'll probably want an inventory in advance.
Okay.
And then, I think all she will probably check on is what are the storage conditions for each CAD type.
Type. Okay, that's what I was thinking. She doesn't care if it's a tax office or the
Nope.
HR office,
Nope.
it's the
If it's paper, it's
paper
paper.
versus. Okay.
She did do quite a lot of measuring for us, calculating
Respect
and
that,
measuring.
yeah.
And I actually have a question about the assessments. How much of a contingency did you put in yours? How much room for growth did you?
We put in 20 years.
You didn't quantify that by a percentage. Like what does 20 years
Yeah,
mean
so you would
Have to
versus?
revisit what we did, but
Okay.
yes, it was exactly a percentage, but we went back and checked how much it had grown over the past 5 years and then multiplied that out.
Okay. Because we decided to add the vault, which is frankly not a lot of stuff and is probably covered in the, I'm using the word contingency, I hope that's correct. But basically expectation of growth, and it's probably actually covered in
Yeah,
the
for
one we have
us.
now, because I did 20%. But now I want to add 20 more percent just in case, who knows?
Well, there are things you're never gonna get rid of, right? So there's things we weed, to use a better word, then. But there's a whole lot of things for the city anyway, and I assume it's for all of you, that are just never going away. They're-
Never going away.
Yeah,
So
so,
like we could get unexpected chase papers.
Right.
yeah,
That, you know, we can't know what is out there that might be gifted to us in the
Right.
future,
so we could do 50 or 100 years,
right?
right? Cause how long do we expect building to last and be the space for us?
Right.
Uh,
I guess when we get to an actual building, I just want to make sure that there's room to grow, even though there's all kinds of conversations about how as time goes on, things are going to be in more digital formats and maybe not such, you know, what we think of as traditional archives, like balancing both of those things, because both can happen and probably will.
Yes,
We're gonna keep in mind the growth, but also keep in mind a space where we're gonna have room to potentially bring other people into this partnership as well.
Right.
That's the
Or
other thing
the
of,
whole group could.
so more than just all of us and our individual growth, that there's something beyond that too.
Even
Mhm.
if some things are born digital, we're still gonna
Exactly,
need
right,
growth space.
right.
you know,
There's
we-
gonna be
we-
fewer and fewer boxes of photographs in attics.
Do you have access to archives of where you were sitting maybe 50 years ago from records to compare that to current day to kind of
It's
slightly use that as a forecast?
It's not apples to apples because the flood has come in the last 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
You know, ours has grown probably at least tenfold in the last 10 years.
Wow. But I know that's because of your assisting other organizations.
No,
right?
that happened right at the very beginning.
Tenfold.
Well, and I think also maybe like someone like myself or Emma might have considered an archive before, but if it's not absolutely strictly Puddle Doc, I'm gonna recommend that they talk to Tom.
Right,
Mhm.
and
Same.
the Chase family did that.
Right, exactly.
And I think the only one of our deposit collections that we have 2 that are growing, South Church and Emma's collection.
Yes, thank you.
The others are all static.
Why's your collection growing?
Because people drop things off for Jerry and he can't resist.
Yes,
Ah.
Jerry has a hard time saying no. And we have very symbiotic relationship in terms of we divide, you know, papers, photos, everything like that. That comes to us, we send to the Athenaeum.
Yep.
But I think because we're open to the public, 7 days a week, we get a lot of stuff on the doorstep. People dropping things off, no information, a lot of things mailed to us. We just become the kind of dumping ground for a lot of, I'm cleaning out my mom's house, I'm cleaning out my grandma's house. No one wants this, but we think it should be saved. So a lot of that we end up.
Do you deassess them?
No, we don't even accession them. We usually direct them. Just give them right over to Tom. If it's a case, a lot of what we get are photos,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
And documents, letters, things like that. We'll will go just right to Tom because that's outside of our collecting scope.
And then if you have something that's really not worthy, what do you do with it?
Well, everything's worthy, it's just we don't collect 3D things, so if somebody has a great chair, I send it to one of
Yes.
you two.
And if that great chair isn't worthy,
We
Yeah.
have, we have in our collections policy, like that we don't need to take something
Yeah,
that is
we
left
just
on
wanna
our
prove-
doorstep.
Yeah, it's pretty narrow.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Portsmouth related and.
Maybe.
very
Mine's
more
pretty
narrow.
Doc. Mine's pretty
It
narrow.
has to be.
I often say, please contact Jerry Ward.
Yeah,
at
we
Historical
are a little more
Society."
broad.
They can tell stories of the whole city,
Yes.
whereas we can only tell stories.
Right. We're much more broad, but it's the same thing. We all have, I think, collections committees. So before we even accession it, it has to get approved by a committee. And if we do not approve it, then we will usually make a recommendation to the donor, if they've made themselves known, of another kind of public repository they could find. So we'll recommend other local institutions that may want to collect. I think we've sent some to even your team sometimes as well.
We have the same thing. We have to
Yeah,
determine whether it's appropriate to our collection, so.
yeah.
Yeah, when people have brought us Portsmouth 400 stuff, we send it to Katie.
I was gonna say that's exactly what we do too. The 400 stuff. we
Thanks so
send
much.
all the time.
Invaluable.
It's probably the same one that sold for $1 gazillion a month ago.
Oh,
I think as we think about and continue to plan for what the right space will be, I think it's gonna be impossible to quantify what the private collections will be and how our collections will ultimately grow. I think part of our plan should be to at least be open to a satellite location in addition to our primary location,
I would agree with that.
so that we can take what's ever coming at us, but it wouldn't have to be in the primary location.
I would be interested to know, for example, your organization, how, what kind of quantity is at the submarine, like, and what kinds of artifacts, and because if we're going to be ultimately repository for more organizations, what does that look like?
Let me see.
I know, well, we haven't asked you to think about this, but
I'm guessing it's maybe 100 linear feet of materials. It's not a huge collection. A lot of it is government documents pertaining to the Albacore and the US Navy. A lot of photographs, lots of paper material related to the movement of the Albacore to Albacore Park. And then we've got.
I remember that. A lot of newspaper articles.
We do also have 3D artifact that's not as many. And we are actually kind of setting the stage for reviewing, getting more strict on our collecting policy and maybe deaccessioning some of our materials, because there's a lot of like mass-produced publications, mass-produced commissioning plaques and things like that, which are redundant.
So what does,
Somebody gave you a boat,
Well, yeah, the boat itself is
but
not
beyond that,
beyond,
haven't you got another boat that someone gave you?
no.
that's
we-
gone?
Yeah, we did have on display the ghost.
I guess that's it?
That wasn't.
I'm sorry?
Did you
Still-
put it in?
Oh,
Oh, the
that's.
stealth.
No, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
no.
I didn't know you guys owned
Yeah.
them.
No, we don't. A couple of
Ghost ship.
years ago, we had it
Like the
on
ghost
display
ship.
outside on our lawn. There's a stealth vehicle called the Ghost. That was,
Scary looking thing?
yeah, it's kind of like this big, like Star Wars looking thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I thought
Above the
it was
water.
on the pier for.
Yeah, I thought it was on the pier.
Yeah, it was on
Um,
the pier for.
it was
a
for
while.
It
years.
may have been on the pier before it was moved to
Yeah.
Albacore Park. That was more before my time, but it's gone back to the manufacturer, I found a buyer for it.
So what does 100 feet translate to volume? Are they bankers boxes?
Yeah, they're bankers boxes, so
I mean, is
it's
that-
hard to say, but I'm guessing maybe like 100 bankers boxes
Mhm.
altogether.
So how many racks is that? I'm just trying to visualize it.
Um, what is it? It's like, I think it's like 15 or 16 banks of shelving that are like about maybe 4 or 5 feet wide and 5 shelves each per bank.
If you have 5 shelves on a tier, it would be 6.6.
Where is that
Yeah.
material currently archived?
At our collection storage, we have a second building out just a short distance from our visitor center.
Right on site?
Yeah.
And you're looking to move that to a permanent archive?
Well, I'm just looking into possibilities. I'm kind of looking at taking a look at what we're doing with our collection and measuring options for future collection growth.
Mhm.
They've never really had formal collection procedures, so I'm trying to standardize that and get it more archivably sound.
Do you have stuff at the Athenaeum?
We do not.
Is the Navy interested in it at all, their museum?
That's a possibility. We actually have a lot of stuff that's on loan from the Navy that we're looking at returning.
So they want it. That's the other way around.
And speaking of remote, ironically, their archive is in Iowa,
The Navy?
right?
Landlocked and that is difficult.
Well, we've been dealing with their curatorial branch, which is in Virginia, I think.
And what kind of growth do you see in your stuff? Or are you pretty static at this point?
We get a slow trickle of stuff. The direction I'm trying to steer our collection committee in is to collecting more materials that have a provenance and a personal story to them. So like I see us doing a campaign in the future, reaching out to former crew members and things like that, and to get more personal memorabilia. Right now, what we have, it's a lot of government technical manuals, artifacts that came off of the albacore itself. And the albacore itself has lots of stuff I haven't even looked at that's on storage on the boat, which I
Yeah.
think probably ought to be taken off of there and integrated into the collection.
You know, and I also wonder about Black Heritage Trail and those organizations too.
Their collection is quite small. It's mostly photocopies of things that Valerie had given us.
Mhm,
So there'd be a huge duplication there.
mhm. Okay. Just trying to get an idea of where this could be going.
I'm sure the city council is gonna ask you that.
Yeah. And that's why I'm, you know,
Well, so I mean, the library is going to be a really large piece of that information. And they're still in process.
Yeah.
So, right,
Yeah.
like
The information about where we're going? or-
about how much space we need,
Oh, okay, yeah, less the library than the city.
or the
records.
city.
Yeah,
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 city.
absolutely.
Um,
what departments of the city are involved at this point?
Tax, finance, maybe some HR. Schools, as I think I mentioned, have like
So those are,
one file cabinet, but it's mostly tax and finance.
Not
Yeah.
election,
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, city
The
clerk,
clerk.
yeah.
so the tax and finance is public.
I assume a lot of the city clerk's files are too, but
There's some that aren't, you know, and then, and what was the other one you said?
Tax.
well, tax and finance are, yeah, I think are
School.
connected. Schools, no, not police, not fire.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Okay.
schools just a little tiny piece, but not what they normally keep.
Is that hard documents or digital?
School is just like one file cabinet. It's not a paper, it's not anything special in terms of formatting. And the other things, yeah, the big issue with finance and particularly the city clerk is state law requirements, not only about how long they keep things, but about access to them.
Right.
So the city has to have control over the space, but they also have to be there. So when Barbara comes, somebody from the city has to be on site. They can't leave anybody alone with the collection, so kind of a twist.
yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, there's an area that's in the archive that has to be set aside that is locked, basically.
Well, maybe everybody knows.
Right.
All the
Paper
members
that they
might
have to see,
I'm sorry?
they have to see paper.
For public access. Do they have to see the paper or can they see a facsimile?
Oh. I don't know. That's a
If
good
it's all
question.
digital, it's one thing, but if it's paper, it's a
I mean, what Barbara's looking at is paper. But some of those things may cross over. I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question I'll ask. I'm not sure how much they're digitizing. I know how much we digitize, but
a fraud audit would be paper.
I think we talked about this about a year ago, about how many people coming into the archive would have to see the original that might be stored somewhere, and how many could take a digital or facsimile.
You say fraud audit requires.
Oftentimes they want to see the paper, and then, well, that may change now because they do accounting, but then traditionally you would match everything,
Yeah.
like your check and the letter you sent with the check and all that kind of stuff. And you would have you of all people would be able to project what it's gonna be in the future and what you've got now.
For the library collection? Or for the
Everything.
city?
Records.
Well, the city, as I was saying, it's multi-tiered because there are some things they keep for 7 years and some things they keep forever. So each of those departments could definitely tell how much their collection grows. We're kind of in the same position as some of our partners because somebody gifts us something, we don't know if we're gonna accept something or we're gonna keep getting gifted. Whereas the city stuff is pretty stable. They're gonna have this much in finance and tax every year and this much in HR and this much. So we could get those.
Well, I look forward to it all. Anything else on assessments or? I guess I started with the next item, the submission to Secretary of State for Incorporation. Needs for IRS submission. We sent out the budget. I think everybody got that. Did everybody get a copy of that?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I thought that was
Very thorough.
it's good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. They're the ones who, you know, those guys most. I don't know if there are other pieces that we need to provide for the IRS submission.
The application, We need a purpose statement.
Purpose statement.
Yeah.
And that should be pretty much out of our
Report.
report and
I think
probably bring it up to date a little more, I guess. Okay. Do we want to start working on that so we can get it? I mean, have it ready?
Yeah, I mean, is there any reason we're not
Going right after it.
going right after submitting this thing?
I mean,
Yeah.
we need the,
I would think it would just be as simple as a cut and paste from the, from the
Yeah.
report.
Yeah, right.
I read it recently. It seems still valid.
Still valid?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
and then we can take that, take this, submit it to the attorneys, and that application should be ready to submit.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Who's gonna cut and paste?
You gave the attorney what we got back from the Secretary of State.
I'm sorry,
You gave to the attorneys what we got back from the Secretary of State.
we haven't gotten it yet. We haven't gotten,
Pending.
You said they sent something saying
pending.
they reserved the name.
they reserved the name.
That may be all you get, so why don't you find out?
I decided not to try to call the Secretary of State and bug them.
No, just send it to the attorney and see what, send that response from the Secretary of State to our attorneys.
And see if that's all that's needed.
Yeah,
Oh, that the name is reserved?
yes.
Oh, okay.
It may be all you're gonna get.
Well, you'll get a number, you'll get a file number, you get all the
tax ID number.
tax ID number.
You go to the IRS for a tax ID number.
Yeah, you wouldn't get a tax ID number from the state,
Right.
from that registration.
Yeah,
That's a separate step.
With the
That we can
IRS.
take once it's registered with the state.
yeah.
I think you are registered with the state, but check.
So there's a business ID,
You're right.
home,
So you're gonna get.
home state name, previous name, business type, principal office address. I timed out on the Secretary of State site there, sorry. But things like that. So I guess there's a business ID and stuff like that that you need to have, that you don't
The
have.
state may issue.
It's
I
a,
just think you should give it to the attorney and make sure they have what they need.
okay. All right. Yeah, I would love to get it in and get some pressure from the senators to keep it moving.
That in progress.
Yeah. I don't know if I've told all of you that I'm not running again for city council.
I thought it was.
Notice your name
misleading.
wasn't on the
Your name
list.
wasn't there.
Yeah.
I noticed your name wasn't on the.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Really? I'm sorry to hear that.
well. I've got about 12 years in for the city,
Yeah, that's true.
HDC and this,
So that means we're gonna appoint someone else.
yeah,
We have any idea who that is?
well, Bob Sullivan is running. And there's a woman I met at the meeting at the library at the
The master planning?
master planning, who, she came over to me and said that she was thinking of running. And I forget her name now.
Has she filed?
But she hasn't filed yet.
She did file.
Oh, she did file.
Could have been Michelle. I saw Michelle.
Yeah, I think it was
I
Michelle.
know her last name right now.
Yeah. She said
She was there, so.
she seemed like a
Yeah.
decent person, I don't know her, then I'm gonna try to.
Good, right?
Start. Do you know her?
Yes, some. She's a decent, yeah, she's good. Good person.
I mean, she seemed.
I think she would be interested in arts and cultural
Yeah,
type things.
and I want to avoid people who are not very civil. And people who are,
Can we choose ourselves? Or say, can we?
Who our city
yeah,
council rep
liaison
is?
How did we write it in the bylaws? Who appoints the people to our board from the city? Is it?
So,
city
the mayor,
manager?
the
Or
mayor. yeah,
if we can complete this registration with the state, get our tax ID, and then hold our initial meeting, we will be released from the city. And we should be able to do that by the time Vince is off the
yes,
council.
Yes, but they still get to appoint their
well, the
two
city
people, right?
manager
It'll be the city manager
City
and
manager.
then one other
and
appointee.
then the mayor.
It doesn't need to
Doesn't
be
have
a council member,
It doesn't need to be a council member,
but
but
it could,
Okay,
but
I
it
forgot that.
would be nice to.
it helps to be a council member and there's some people I wouldn't want on the council currently. And then there's some I would, so. I already asked Kate,
Yeah, I was gonna say she's a natural.
if she would do it, but she's on a lot of committees. But I just asked her, she didn't answer. But she knows, so.
Sorry, everyone, I have to run for a next meeting.
Thank you for
but
coming.
Yes. And I will. I have it now on my calendar to make the council meeting, so.
Okay, good, thank you. That's about all I have. Is there anything anyone else has? Come on, I can't think everything up.
Anything new with potential donors?
No. I mean, I haven't done any
I don't know
work
that
on
I
it
think.
myself.
It'll be easier once you have the 501c3.
Yeah, it's hard to ask for
Yeah, if it's not.
substantial money.
I don't know the answer.
We
I-
didn't determine who was doing that though, the 501c3 filing.
See what I have.
Oh,
Talking about a tax.
No, we didn't.
Because that's
No.
what the 501c3 is gonna be.
Jeff?
If they're,
Yes,
Do you wanna work with me on the 501c3 filing?
on the 501c3 filing.
the,
Copy and paste into the form.
The purpose statement?
I'm not sure what we're talking
Sorry.
about. So I thought the attorney was gonna file the 501c3.
Yes.
So we need
Okay.
to send to the attorney.
we just have to send the budget
Yeah,
and the statement.
statement.
Yeah. Purpose statement, I guess it is that what?
Yeah.
It was statement of purpose.
I would think that just sending those two documents to them.
I know, but we want to get the. All right,
So who's gonna come up with the purpose statement?
that's what I'm asking.
you're asking.
I'll easily tonight just copy and paste it into an email to you, so use something to start with to see if you can
Okay.
edit it.
And then we can
And then it's as simple as sending that to Trevor. So yeah, I'm in.
I mean, that's the
Send
key.
it to-
The key
send
to
it to
this,
me.
Trevor's gonna submit it. I mean, that's
Right.
the whole key of it.
Yeah, the lawyer seems to want to communicate with Trevor.
Yeah,
That's right.
And I mean, she waited for Trevor to say, okay, for getting this first piece in.
Mhm.
I kept saying, come on, come on. But lawyers tend to respect each other. In some level.
Some lawyer.
Oh,
Some lawyer.
How did he thought?
Some lawyer. So you're gonna send that to,
I'll send it to, want to send it to both of you?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send it tonight.
or all of us.
Yeah,
It has to go through Vince, so if I send it to more than,
yeah, send it to me.
because there's you're not
Send it
allowed to do that.
me. Well, you
Yeah,
can send
actually,
it-
why don't I send you the final budget? Kristen can send you the purpose statement, and then maybe you as the chair should send that to Trevor,
Even better.
Yeah,
right?
Even better.
I'll send it to you tonight.
okay. Well, you're gonna look at it and edit it and do that, yeah,
Like I said, I read it recently and it should be timeless
okay.
and it seemed fine to me.
We're not gonna be taxed, so.
It was had some change
Right.
year.
Right.
It's the same purpose from last year.
Okay, good.
We good?
Anything else?
Our next meeting is October 27th.
October 27th.
I know. God. Yeah.
Address. Using business ID.
Yes, it is.
Right.
October 27th.
Vince,
What do
I
you
just looked at the status of my business name on the city, on the state site.
Yeah,
And you're right, there is still some work that they're doing to get the business ID, type of trade name. The address should be on the site. Currently, there's, as you saw, it's just the name
just the name.
Yeah.
Yeah,
reserved. So there's still some work to do there.
yeah.
That's just a matter of weeks though, not months.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, hopefully days.
Hopefully days, yeah.
By the time we meet again in October, it should be done.
Yeah, I think we should have it.
Yeah, so for the
Have it
October
before then.
meeting,
Mhm.
I think that we should plan on that being our initial meeting for the entity,
Yeah,
right? And voting in officers.
well, we have to vote in. So each organization then has to designate members of the board of directors.
Yeah. But I think we'll be ready to do that at the next meeting, because
Yeah.
the only thing we're gonna need after this is finalized is that tax ID, and you can get that in a minute online.
And then,
So quick to draw on that.
No?
We're a 501c3, we're not a business. That's where you get the tax ID number, you pick up the phone, and you get it. We're a business, but we're trying to be a 501c3.
right,
So it'll come with our 501c3
That's what I
status.
think, yeah.
That's not what the attorney said.
Oh, really?
No, they said that was.
the tax number,
Yeah, once you have the name,
yeah,
you can just go onto the IRS website and request tax ID.
Before we get to 501c3.
That's what my
Well,
understanding.
they said it, they know.
And then they give 501c3 status to our existing tax ID.
That would make sense.
yeah,
That was my understanding. We can confirm that with them.
yeah,
If we can confirm that, then we should be able to have that in place for our next meeting,
yeah,
and then we can turn this into its own entity.
yeah,
Meeting. Which means that we would no longer be a blue ribbon committee.
Right.
yeah,
So we could have our committee meeting and then close our committee meeting and
Mhm.
open our entity meeting.
Mhm.
And does the council have to close that loop?
yes, I think they do. So, it would be,
Probably any time before the end of the year.
yeah,
No, I said there was.
And does everyone here stay on this new board?
depends,
Well, I would
who
think
is
so.
designated to the
That's something that they would.
board of directors.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's why
2 members per entity
Yeah.
plus
And I think-
the members at large.
Three things.
Obviously me and Linnea, but like what about
And he would,
you two?
Vince has got, so that the name is
No, I
reserved
know.
and we have the name. And we
And-
stay
Chuck and
Emma,
I.
Chuck and you,
budgeted.
and
If
I'm,
we all stay the same, got it.
yeah, well,
I
and
think they
I'm
need that
just,
Talk
for
to the
the
city manager.
tax.
and I'm just hoping
That's-
that
that's
you
what we
reserve
Will you be
one,
sitting back here soon?
yeah, maybe.
Get this whole thing rolling.
It's a little lonely.
Middle of it.
Come on,
The
come
attorney.
on, there's
Yes.
three at-large
Yeah.
seats.
Of course, of course.
No, I think they should be the one who
I happen
requests
to be
taxpayer.
very
That's
fond
what
of
you
this
said.
large seat.
Gotcha.
If that could happen, but that's not up to me. It's up to
Yeah.
it's up to the founding members no, it's up to the board. The board is formed by the founding members, and the founding members will fill in the rest of the
There's gonna
board.
be 3 at large.
I bet you'll get a seat.
Be nice now.
Honestly, for some reason, I just thought, even though I full well know the whole city council gets elected all at once, but like this just wasn't your year to rerun again, and that's why it wasn't noted
Yeah.
in our paper when you signed up.
Yeah.
Well, you have lots of trips and grandchildren and things.
I do. I have, well, we'll talk about that after we close the meeting. So, a pair of. Can I motion?
Motion to adjourn.
So adjourn
Do
second.
you want to continue?
Alright,
Aye.
recording.
Should you say yes?